regarding that. Okay. Great. So you wanted to talk a little bit about the field of ABA and kind of what that looks like and some of the resistance that we're getting. So I guess we could just dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people think, from what I've heard, this is me like taking the perspective of a commenter who heard that I do behavior analysis, and they think, oh, you do conversion therapy. You're out there shocking people to make them straight because they have feelings, uh, about same-sex marriage or something. I don't know. And I'm like, no, that's nothing what we do. That has nothing to do with what I've done. Um, I work with like kids that need support in school. I mean, especially me. I'm a big, tall guy, so I work with a lot of kids who engage in self-injurious behavior. I work with kids who like have to learn how to get what they need from their environment. And what I see is like, hey, they don't have the verbals or the vocals, so they're like, I need to tap this glass to let you know I want food. And then what does that get to when you want a specific food? What do you think?
Yeah, I dive a little deeper just because I'm in those spaces. I have been in those spaces for a while. It's been for me at this point, I've been in the reform space since about like 2019, 2020. So it's now been like 5 years, which is hard to believe. And I still think
When you
time
say the
makes no sense.
reform space, what do you mean reform? Reform what?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I should clarify that. So there is a movement within ABA on reforming practice. And so the
Hmm.
ABA reform movement has basically been around for a very, very long time. I'm actually new to it, being that it's only been like 5 years for me being in this space. It seems like forever, but pandemic time makes no sense and doesn't count. So me being in that space for the last 5 years is nothing compared to a lot of the advocates I've connected with and like been a part of and become friends with even. Um, so the reform space, what we consider like on social media platforms, there are groups, there are pages, there are subreddits if you're on Reddit. There are certain content creators that talk about how to incorporate reform practices into what you do daily. So that space is still kind of new to some people. But basically, it takes the idea and the premise that ABA has caused a lot of harm. ABA has hurt a lot of people. ABA continues to hurt a lot of people, even with the best of intentions. I use air quotes on that because intentions are obviously a private event. And as a behavior analyst, we have to say we can't measure it. But
Well, there are private events you can measure, but those private events we cannot measure. Yes.
right, exactly. So in that regard, there's just a lot of I want to say like it's about a 50-50. So I want to say like maybe half of the students I come across are at least aware that there is a reform movement or there is some sort of backlash to ABA. While the other half, I want to say, is probably blissfully ignorant to the fact that people don't like what we do sometimes. And that for me, I feel that at this point it should be common knowledge, but I've also been doing this for a while. And so
Hmm.
it's still very new to a lot of people. And so, yeah, breaking it down and kind of explaining what that is, probably also really helpful. Once again, I'm assuming that people know. Um, but yeah, you said you're kind of starting to get some of that in your social media space.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, most people don't know what a behavior analyst is or what behavior analysis is. And the way that I use what I know and what I learn now is very different from when I was practicing as a behavior interventionist. But right now, I'm a professor at a university, as are you, and we are very interested and making sure the people that come up next do not replicate and reproduce the harms that were done, especially within our umbrella of behavior analysis across time. So we are definitely teaching them this is what was done, this is how they did it. That is not okay. This is what we do, this is how we do it. This is what we think is okay. And you should question it to make sure that the assent and consent of your participants are always valued and in line with what you're doing.
Right. And I don't know about you, but that's one of the reasons why the appeal of being specifically a research instructor was there
Hmm.
for me. And that's a thing that um, my whole way of thinking was, okay, I'm disabled, so like working as a consultant no longer really helps me. It actually hurts me and depletes me.
Mm,
But I can have an impact with my caseload, but I could actually affect bigger systemic change if I go into teaching and affect all of these students who are then affecting all of these programs and doing all of these research studies. And so that was a big seller for me, especially wanting to get into like more student research. And like you said, the guidance of doing some of that, some of the students come back to me, well, my supervisor said this would be fine. I don't care what your supervisor said. What I'm saying is that you are only asking a social validity measure to be completed by the parent or caregiver when everything trickles down to the learner themselves. How are you gauging assent? How are you making sure they are cool with what you're going to be doing? Well, nobody's ever done that in these studies that I've looked at. Well, that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean we just say, okay, we don't change anymore. That means that you figure out a way to do it and you do it better. So I don't know if that kind of speaks to you a little bit, but that was what pulled me in.
no, that's so interesting because I think that you came to this point, the same point I'm at now, in a different way. You said that being a consultant no longer serves you. So that tells me one, you were a consultant, and two, there was some kind of environmental contingencies that weren't serving your reinforcers in the way that you desired. So you escaped. So could you tell me about that? Or could you tell us about that?
And you catch all the things. Um, like it's not that I disliked consulting. Like I loved working with my learners. My learners like gave me drive every single day. It was just so full disclosure, I'm autistic. I have ADHD, and then I have like some body stuff going on, dysautonomic function. And so I was not diagnosed until right shortly after the pandemic started. So it was after I'd already went to online teaching and doing that full time. Um, Everything that kind of surrounded my actual job, so like the logistics of having to like go into an office, having to do staff meetings in person, having to um, go to weekly meetings with my supervisor just to kind of do a check-in when I didn't need any guidance or I didn't need support. I'm the type of person that I will ask you if I truly need the help, but otherwise I feel like this could have been an email. And so it was a lot of the office culture stuff that I
Hmm.
really didn't like. It was the billing requirements I didn't like. It was the need to ask for as many hours as possible when I didn't think the learner would need as many hours. But of course, it's a profit driven structure if you're working under insurance. There were just a lot of things that I had a hard time with. Of course, I'm not going to blame any of the places that I worked at prior because I wasn't even aware of my own needs and accommodations I needed. But once I went to like an online exclusive environment, things became a lot easier for me. Things became a lot more clear to me. I had more control over my environment that I didn't have prior. Um, it was just an extreme difference. My mental health increased dramatically. There we go. Um, and
I like that
so
word though,
dramatically,
dramatically.
it's like the best of dramatically and drastically. So it's even more powerful. But Yeah, I didn't know truly how to accommodate myself. I don't know how things could have been, meeting me in the middle with those accommodations either. I was strictly on site,
Hmm.
and that took a lot out of me. There was a lot of driving, there was a lot of mileage, there was a lot of face-to-face interaction instead of like being able to log on to a screen and do my meetings that way. It was a lot of heavy socialization. And me conversing with a familiar person like yourself is one thing, but me conversing with like the family who are constantly asking me a lot of questions about certain things that I'm not as prepared for, or like the learner having a rough day that I'm not prepared for because I myself am overstimulated, or like, there were just a lot of different things that would come up spontaneously, which is not
Hmm.
ideal for someone like myself. Um, but, I was able to speak to some of those needs pretty well, unknowingly that I also had the same struggles. So I have that conversation with some of my neurodivergent peers a lot, where it's like our voices are so needed in consulting, our voices are so needed in some of these spaces, but it's really hard to find a place that actually accommodates the disability piece in leadership and management. And
Hmm.
if you find it, latch on, because it's really hard to find. And I don't know what is so hard about that. It's like you're serving autistic learners, but yet you don't have that same space for the professionals, and it drives them out. Like I know a lot of professionals who are burned out, especially who are autistic. And that kind of went down a whole rabbit hole I don't know that we need to go down, but um, long story short, it just was really hard for me to continue to keep going in that regard, in that space. And
Hmm.
it's not personal to anybody. It was just me and what I need, and the ways that I best provide support. Like, put your seatbelt on
Yeah,
before you help somebody else put their seatbelt on, or their face mask, or whatever. Same thing.
exactly. No, I think that that speaks a lot to a lot of probably BCBA's experiences, especially when it comes to supervising, having a large caseload, and not being able to have a predictable schedule. Because I mean, that can be really difficult, especially when you have someone that is someone you're supposed to support, and they have a lot of behaviors that are really high magnitude
Yeah,
behaviors, and that, like, it weighs on you because you're like, I want to really help them
yeah.
now, and they need help now, and their family needs help now, and then for you to come in 2 to 3 days a week, it doesn't feel right. So I mean, I think that's something that we're going to talk about a lot
Oh, probably.
through this podcast.
Probably
Because I
for
mean,
sure.
I think you and I both think the whole system needs a little revamp, at
Oh,
least.
yeah, in many ways.
So yeah, and I think that one thing that we both have felt is that we've been given the opportunity through our job to have some time to reflect on these things, and we want to be like, hey, maybe we can produce some research to better help those people that
Yeah.
are actually in the field, because I see those as our front lines, you know.
Hmm.
Whenever I was a behavior interventionist, I never wanted to be a supervisor. I never wanted
Oh,
to do
same.
that job because it just seemed like so terrible. I'm like, I don't want to go to 8 schools a day,
Yep.
very concerned and have a large caseload, 2 kids at each school, and then I'm just there for a few minutes with my BT. And I had great supervisors and I had terrible supervisors.
Yeah.
And even if they were great, they couldn't be there enough.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And, depending on disability or not, like there's a whole other layer depending on, um, you know, you had kind of talked about how you were tall, and,
mhm,
like more of a like larger presence for your learners. And so
mhm,
there's also a stigma with male practitioners, especially tall ones, because you always get the most combative,
mhm.
aggressive behavior. And that's not fair either.
No, it's not. And two things I want to parse out from what you said. One, I always thought that I always had to have the hardest, toughest clients. I got on a sub case one day. I had one of the easiest clients I would ever have, and I was like, people still are behavior analysts or BTs, and they do this. Like
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here all day, and
Oh
nobody's
no.
hitting me. That was crazy
This is
to me. That was
weird.
like
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
But also I had it. It was right here. It was in my brain. It was on my head,
I hate
and it
that.
left.
I hate when that
It
happens.
it
It
it, it
happens
was
all
like
the time to me.
goodbye. Um,
It'll come back.
no. What was I talking about though?
We're
Working
talking
with
about
learners.
the stigma about you having to work with the most challenging forms of behavior. And like, I think it's based on being male. I think it's based on being
Mhm.
tall. I think it's being strong.
Oh, this is what. Thank you. You
Hmm.
triggered it. You did a great job. Um, I didn't realize how different children act when I enter the room from when one
Hmm.
of the smaller women enter the room. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm like 21, probably maybe 20, 19, and I'm like learning, and I'm working in this class, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they act differently when you come in." And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, great, like that's cool or whatever. But like I got to see the difference by like being behind something that they couldn't see. And I saw how they treated my women colleagues who were the same thing, behavior technician, and just smaller women. And they straight up would not listen to the same prompt that I would give them, and I had to unlearn my privilege. And that was like one of the most like smack in the face. You have male privilege. You have tall male privilege. You
Right.
have tall big male privilege. Like it was like a big smack in the face that like it taught me, hey, your presence makes them evoke and elicit different behaviors. So
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah,
But I've seen it. And so you
yeah,
breaking that down, it's absolutely what happens.
yeah.
That's
It exists.
interesting. And I wonder how much of that plays into how caseloads are divided, because I feel that for a long time, because I had come from a lot of training in a direct clinic and had worked with all sorts of types of behavior, I had then transferred into a job that was more like group homes, ISLs, and supported living. And so I felt that I was still given like what I would consider the novel cases. And that was a challenge because I would constantly be like, I don't know that I'm qualified to work on this behavior. I've never actually seen it in person. I haven't received any
Mhm.
supervision around it. Well, they're next on the list. So
And they need a body, and
you're
you're a
up.
body.
Yeah. And the one thing that always really bothered me in particular was like the feeding clients. I'm like, I do not want to
Mm,
do anything with feeding. I've never felt comfortable doing anything with feeding, but I would get clients who would demonstrate feeding behavior that was not favorable. And so I never felt qualified to work on those cases because
mm,
everyone was trying to like, well, we need them to be like force fed. And, it's like, I'm not going to force anybody to eat. Like, I'm
mhm,
picky. Why am I going to force feed somebody else if they don't like broccoli? Like, I'm not going to do that to them. I don't
mhm.
like broccoli. Like, so yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff going on with like assigning cases or assigning BTs or there's just so much in there. And like you said, it perpetuates further stigmas because, there's that stimulus control factor. So, like, oh, the tall male's coming in. I better listen because if I
Mhm.
don't, he's taller and bigger than me. That's, I don't know if it's like a fear response or what, or, stimulus control based on like the
I
father
did
in the
not use
home
positive
being,
punishment
no,
ever
no,
with
no.
my clients.
But like, that goes back to a deeper issue of
Hmm.
socialization and reinforcement and punishment contingencies. Like,
Hmm.
my mother was not the disciplinarian in my home. It was my father. And I was
Mm,
from a very like traditional home. So if like the tall father is the guy who disciplines, like that stimulus control can absolutely transfer and generalize to my male RBT or
yep.
my male BCBA or
Yep.
whatever. So I think there's just so many layers to this too. It's really hard to unpack it all.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. And then one of the things is when I graduated from undergrad, I went to the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California, and I got my bachelor's in psychology, general psychology. The first job I could do, I had two jobs after I exited. I worked at H&M as just like a
Oh, mhm.
cashier, and then I was a behavior technician. Technically, I was a behavior therapist. That's what they called it at
Yeah.
that
Then
time in that area.
right. We didn't have
Behavior therapist.
RBTs.
No, we didn't have RBTs, and I've never been an RBT, so
Same.
sorry. We just didn't have it back in my day.
Yep. Back in my
um,
day.
yeah, Pokemon was black and white.
Grr. Let me get my cane out.
um, exactly. But that's what we had, and I that was like the one job I could actually apply for with my degree. Most
Yeah.
jobs were like, you completed college, great, come here.
Good
But
job.
if you completed specifically psychology, you could be a behavior therapist. And I did have classes in behavior analysis, and I learned about Skinner, and I had to do my own little behavior change of my own behavior thing for my undergrad. So I knew what I was doing to some degree. I realized later if I learned more, I could do better. So I went to go get more education. But if you go get a degree in psychology as a bachelor's, what can you do with that?
Yeah, not much.
Not much. Nowadays, it seems like you got to, after that, go get your RBT licensure or whatever, to be able to actually do something. And then you're still probably not making that much,
No,
which
definitely
is
not.
messed up.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember once I got my master's in psychology, it was a similar thing where you had a few different routes, but there weren't very many. So you could either go the route of social work and just completely go off off course. You could go into the talk therapy psychology and you could just, go for that, but then you would have to start doing like the supervision and like internship and stuff like that. Or you could find the accessible, easy behavior therapist job, and that is where I think we tend to, I don't want to use the word siphon, but I think that's where we tend to collect the students, and
I
then
agree.
we kind of trap them in and we're like, okay, but you can actually make more. You just have to, get these certification courses, then you do
Hmm.
the exam. And
And we're totally going to train you. You're going to be
yeah,
so great. We're going to give you 3, 4 hours of training, and then you're going to know everything.
right, exactly. And so that's
That's
how,
sarcasm, by the way,
oh yeah,
to
totally.
the yeah, to the audio listeners.
Um, yeah, it's actually really interesting because I thought about this the other day and I was like, how did I end up here? And not that that's a bad thing, but like, you think
It's a good
back through
question.
and it's like, how did I get here? Because people ask me all the time, well, how'd you end up in ABA? How'd you end up as
Hmm.
teacher in
Hmm.
ABA and a professor? And it's like, well, I don't really know how the hell I actually did get here. But, tracing it back, it's like, well, I found a job that paid, and it paid better than
Hmm.
my job at GameStop, which is where I was working. And
Okay.
and then I went on in, and then it was just like, well, I have to keep making more money, so I'm gonna go get my certification. I'm gonna, get certified, and I'm not unhappy it turned out that way because I feel that I have a mission and I have a
Hmm.
calling, but like, that could also be where a lot of burnout comes in the field because people look up and they're just like, well, how the hell did I make it here? Like,
Yeah.
when did this happen?
And
So
I also
I
think
understandably.
I think that's an incredible lore drop for you about working at GameStop. I
Yep.
think that like that's like
Loved that
50% of the
job.
people I would talk to. Like I would go to
Loved,
GameStop and I would go home
loved
and
it.
then I would go
No.
back to GameStop. There's like a place called Gator Games where they sold
Oh,
Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards,
yep.
and I would go there. So I mean, it was between the two
Yeah,
for
I
me.
loved that job. I hated the pay. And I had made it to like a key holder, and there was no way I was getting promoted further up. And it was me.
Really?
Yeah, it was me. And then I had a coworker who was mixed, and
Hmm.
we were both going through our bachelor's at the time in college. And both of us were basically told that there was no way either of us would advance any further, myself and my mixed male coworker. Yeah,
Who would say that to an employee? Like you could just say nothing.
I know.
Okay, so not
Well,
only will GameStop pay very little for your used games, but they will also
I know.
say
And
that.
that's a big, bold statement of me, but that's what I was told. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But we were both obviously very qualified people, and
Hmm.
you know, white men always got promoted into that store manager spot. And
Crazy how that happens.
yeah, it's so weird.
Just
Huh?
don't
You
want
know,
to
you
say.
wouldn't, that never happens. What are you talking about? Gosh. But yeah, great job otherwise. But yeah, and it's funny
No,
because
that's cool.
that coworker and I were the ones that would always get sent for the questions from people
Hmm.
because we were the ones that
Hmm.
played the games. And
Yeah. What? Yeah. What do you think about this? What do you like about this? Did you
yeah,
ever sell? A quick question, GameStop question.
completely off topic. Yeah.
GTA.
Oh yeah.
You ever sell a copy of GTA?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I worked there when San Andreas launched, I believe. And
You
so
ever
I
sell
had
a
to do a
copy?
midnight launch of
Oh,
Grand Theft Auto
Jesus.
San Andreas. That's dating me. I'm actually 41. So like
You are not 41. That's
I am
lies. This is
41. I was
AI.
born
This
in
must be
1984.
AI.
No,
Oh my
I
God.
was born in 1984. So I worked with like when Vice City Stories was launched, when San Andreas was launched, and then I want to say, well, no, 4 came out for PS3 and Xbox 360 later.
See, that's why you look so good because you have no hate in your heart like that. So that's why
No hate.
you're
And I never
like
go
your whole
outside.
yeah.
Never.
Oh well, then
That's
there you
another
go.
thing. Like I stay inside, I play at my computer, and I
Okay,
watch
what are you playing
TV.
now?
Fallout 76, which I know is kind of a from a lot of
Hmm.
Fallout people, but I since they've incorporated like WoW type elements into
Hmm.
seasons and scorecards and stuff, I'm kind of a hoe for collecting things. And
Okay,
so like
okay.
I have to get all the items, I have to finish all the seasons. It's so incentivized. I hate it, but I also like fall for it. And
Yeah,
I know the science behind it. I don't want to like say that I'm a victim of it, but I am a victim of it
yeah.
100%. So yeah, but don't go outside, your skin will thank you. That's my motto. And I
No, I
don't
feel
run
that.
either. I don't run either because I'm clumsy. So I can't get hurt if
I
I don't run.
understand that. You said WoW like elements. I, when it comes to World of Warcraft, I have a
Mhm.
rule. I treat World of Warcraft like crack. I just don't do it anymore. I never did crack, but I mean, World of Warcraft, I did it for one winter break. I
And that's all
literally
you
had
did.
nothing but hot pockets and top ramen. I don't remember anything but leveling my warlock in my guild,
Yep.
and that was everything to me. I will
Hmm.
never, ever touch that thing again.
Never pick it back up. Yeah, that's generally the experience. So either you're like a lifer or you're like,
Mhm.
okay, I have other things I have to do in my life, like,
I have a life.
bathe and eat and like work
Hmm.
and be able to support my habit. So therefore I need to like not play it.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's either all or nothing,
yeah,
100%.
definitely,
And my husband plays
definitely.
too occasionally, but he'll pick it up occasionally. And then I know like when he's picking it up because you don't see him for like a week. And he's just like in here playing games. And that's fine. Whatever. As long as you have healthy
Nice.
boundaries around it. But if you can't maintain those healthy boundaries around it,
No, I
then WoW
can't. No, no, it's
may
not for
not be a
me.
fit.
I need games that like I just played Pokemon ZA. I beat it. I beat it on my girlfriend and my anniversary. It was
Nice.
I played for
Bonus.
5 6 days and I finally beat it. I got that Mankey off my back. And that was great. And I also played Hades 2 on my Switch, and then I have Ghost of Yotai. Yotai. Um, which I need to start playing. But I have a problem where I like if I really like a game, I really want to beat it because
Yeah,
I'm just living my life in between breaks to play the game.
yeah. That's I'm an
Yeah.
immersive gamer too, and it's hard because I also love achievements, and
Hmm.
I have to get all the achievements, and it stinks when I can't, and when I realize I've hit that like wall of not getting any
Hmm.
more achievements, then I abandon the game, and then I go to
Hmm.
something else. So I rotate around. So I understand.
That's a good rule. That's a good rule.
Yeah, but
There you go.
also, there's always something to play. And Steam has been terrible for me because there's always something on sale on Steam. And I'm like, oh, that's been on
Yeah.
my wish list for like a year. I might as well get it. It's like 30% off.
Yep.
It's
I
so
gave up
bad.
Steam
So
after Left 4 Dead 2. I was
oh,
playing like
it's a good one.
that's when I was in undergrad. Me and my friends, we'd all get our
Mhm.
computers, Left 4 Dead 2. Everybody's got their Left 4 Dead 2. People would be out at parties. We'd be like, we're right here. Do not wake the witch. I swear to God, if you wake the witch again, I'm gonna shake you.
Left 4
So that
Dead
was
is
our life.
good. I haven't played that in ages, but I should pick it back up. That should go in my rotation for sure. Um,
Especially if you have people to play with.
oh, for
That
sure.
really kind of changes the game. I just started Split Fiction. I don't know why this became a. I'm sorry, it became a video game podcast all of a sudden.
It's because I mentioned GameStop.
Sorry.
GameStop, it sends the spiral.
It does. It does.
But that's okay. It's okay. We can always loop back to other things too.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we should definitely loop back to kind of what we were talking about before we started the recording
Hmm.
about social media spaces, because you and I are
Hmm.
both on some social media spaces where we are advocates and like outspoken about a lot of things, but that also
Hmm.
kind of creates some backlash.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
definitely think we should talk more about that.
All right. Well, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't say free Palestine, free the Sudan, free all of the global South, and anybody that has to live under the rule of capitalism,
Yeah,
supremacy, whether it's white or class or both, or male.
yeah.
Sorry if I
Amen.
keep going, but yeah. Um, but I'm sorry, I don't know where I was going. I thought about something
Well,
else.
um, kind of the resistance that we see on social
Oh
media.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. One of the things that recently happened that I would like to get your opinion about is the No Kings protest.
Oh, mhm.
What did you think about that?
As a whole, or
I like to leave it ambiguous so that I can let you approach it as you desire.
well, I did not have the opportunity to participate both times that they've had them. This past weekend, I was actually at a music festival, and
Mm,
so I was in Las Vegas for that, and anticipating bands coming on. Um, but I'm in a metro area now that had a very large protest, a lot of turnout. I think they made national news in some regard for some of the
mhm,
areas, which I struggle with protesting. And I struggle with the idea of protesting because I don't know that there's ever a way that we could protest in a way that actually gets heard. Um,
mm,
and it's not that I'm saying don't even try. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I think that depending on what your protest looks like, whether it's holding a sign and yelling at cars or whether it's blocking entry to a certain facility or whatever, um, you've got to kind of ask yourself, what's the function of the behavior here? What's the function that I'm looking to gain out of this? I've seen a lot of stuff since, January, let's be honest, about
mhm,
how my voice doesn't matter as a woman, my voice doesn't matter as an autistic person. And so I feel a little defeated. And I just don't know that me going out and joining this protest is going to do much of anything. In fact, I think it's going to make me tired. I think it's going to make me more bitter. It's nice to connect with like-minded individuals, but
Hmm.
I also value making small systemic chips away at the system, like teaching and really trying to reinforce we're not going to follow the system. We're going to do this different. And here's
Hmm.
how we can do it. So I try to channel my energy into other avenues of protest that are a little more active.
Hmm.
But I don't want to discredit those who protest
I
at
don't
all.
think you are. I think that what you're saying is so valid. There's this saying, I forget who said it. I want to say it's Dr. Angela Y. Davis, but she doesn't want to valorize the front lines. She
Right.
says that like everybody has a job, but not everybody's job is the same. Some people need to be out there marching, but there are some
Mhm.
people who can't. And
Yeah.
some people who like are people who bake bread, they need to be the bakers. They need to bake the bread for the individuals to march. So they
Yeah.
can't be out in the streets marching, or else we're not going to have bread. So
Right.
you're like, hey, there needs to be people that are actually in these positions of power in academia who are teaching individuals who are going to go out there, and we need to make sure those people who are teaching have like neuro affirming and trauma care, like all these different portions of them that are prepared to be able to do that job. Additionally, I have this saying that is there is no form of protest acceptable to the oppressor. And a
That
lot of people
summarizes it.
think that, yeah, exactly. A lot of people think, that means that it's not a protest or they really don't understand it. What I'm saying is,
Right.
if it's a protest, it needs to disrupt. And
Right.
if we're going to disrupt, the oppressor is going to utilize their contingencies to withhold or remove reinforcers and apply punishers.
Yeah. Which
So,
we've been seeing.
um, exactly. So we need to be prepared for that. So we need to have a structure or a system that can support that pressure. And I think that what you're concerned with is creating that structure or system. So when that pressure comes, you have individuals who are prepared for it, because I
Right.
don't think we have a lot of professors that like are doing that, or at least don't talk about it.
Yeah, or they may just not be aware at what they could do. And I still struggle with that. It's like, man, what can I
Hmm.
do to help further this cause? And like, I don't know everything. You don't know everything. None of us know
Yeah,
everything. Like, and that's part of
exactly.
it. So, helping each other out and, doing that. But what you said there is like spot on. I think it summarizes exactly how I feel. Like, regardless of how we protest, it'll never be acceptable by the oppressor. And
Hmm.
to me, that's so self-defeating. I know that I have to, pick myself up and I have to be strong because I have to fight for, my own demographics and the demographics of so many others that I, want to also amplify their voices for. So it's just hard. It's hard right now. I hate to say that it's just hard and heavy, but it is. It's
It
tough.
is.
How do you sit on all of it?
um I like
Where do I
default
start?
into this. Yeah, exactly. I default into this. I'm a black man in America, like
Right, right.
you know
And
what I
that's
mean,
fine.
like
That's
you know
fine.
but what I really think is like, hey, listen to me and people that have more intersecting um marginalizations. You know what I mean? You can
Yeah,
listen to me, but also listen to black women, but also
yeah,
listen to disabled people, listen to women with, autism, or a person with autism, or a person with, severe, like with anything. Like, I really need people to just take the time to look at their timeline and critically evaluate what am I receiving? Because if it's like a white dude, chiseled white dude, white woman, Donald Trump, like all these like um tailored perspectives that appease the top percentage, then you're not really understanding what the concerns are of the people that are living, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
It,
I think that one thing that we've been going for a while, we have not introduced ourselves at all.
it's fine.
I love
We
that.
know who we are. Like, we know who we are. Well, it's like you said, we're just joining a conversation. So
Mhm.
we're just gonna hard launch that and just
Yeah, there you go. I like
full
that.
full speed 100% in. I mean, we can introduce ourselves if you I don't know what people generally like because I'm weird. So
I don't know what they like either, because I apparently, from the
we're
comments that
both
I see
strange.
receive, yeah.
We're both strange, and that's fine. But we care about
Cool.
people, so I guess that makes us weird.
Yeah, and I'm
So
Jared,
strange.
newly Dr. Jared. I'm so
Woo!
excited about that. You know what, one thing I do struggle with is like how I introduce myself, because I do want them right now to know that I'm a doctor, but I also don't want to be that a-hole that is like, you need to call me doctor. Like every single time
That's exactly
through
how I
our
feel about
university,
it.
like, hey, should I call you this or that? And the first thing I say every time is like, hey, they are very particular at this university about you calling them doctor this. So you should prepare yourself to call every person doctor that.
Right.
But I'm Jared. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you.
That's so funny. That's exactly how I feel about it. And that's what I've always said. And like I try to take the edge off. Like I hate my last name because like it's a part of my upbringing that I don't always agree with. Um, but I published, and so like when I got married, I didn't take my partner's name or my spouse's
Hmm.
name because we're married. Um, and so I kept that name because I'm like, I don't want there to be confusion about what I have and haven't published. So now I'm kind of stuck with
Hmm.
it, unless I just want to hyphenate, which to me sounds like just a huge pain in the butt and whatnot. So I don't want to do that.
Talk
But yeah,
about that though. Women publishing, like my girlfriend, she also felt the same way, because she actually hates her last name, because
yeah,
the whole thing with her dad, and it's not
same.
actually her last name, but it's the last name that's, on all of the official records. And she's happy to take my last name, but she published
Yep.
and she wants to be recognized for it. And I think she should be. But she
Yeah.
also doesn't want to hyphenate, and it's this whole thing. And it's something that men who are straight cis men planning on,
Yeah.
marrying a woman never have to ever think about.
Well,
And
it's
that's crazy to me.
that they don't think about it. Like,
Yeah, they
and that
never, yeah.
I've challenged like my spouse and I'm just like, would you take my last name? He's like, well, sure. And like it shouldn't have to be like one of those questions that's like, hey, would you do this? It should be a collateral
Hmm.
thing. Like, well, I like my last name or
Absolutely.
my family was healthy and we still talk to my family. There's like a lot of
Hmm.
disconnect with families now. It's just part of a thing of all this healing. But
Hmm.
like we don't talk to either of our families really. So it's like,
It
whose
should
name
be a
would we take?
conversation. I mean,
But
because it's
yeah,
not a
it's
conversation I see online. You know what I mean? It's not something that
no,
I see people picking up. They're like,
no.
"Would you date somebody if they didn't text back?" It's like, the most
No.
ridiculous thing. I'm so glad I'm not on a dating pool.
Oh my gosh, no. Like it's brutal out there. I have friends in it and I'm just oof. And especially like in the
Good
40s,
luck.
like it's brutal in the 40s in particular. Like anyway, so yeah,
You
like
can't keep
I'm in
saying
the
that,
same.
because you do not look like
I
that.
know, I'm telling you, my friends are all my age. We're all 41 and it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Um So yeah, I've been a doctor for a little longer now. I actually got certified as a BCBA in 2014, and
Mm,
that's been a minute. Um,
that's
so
when
I've
I
been in the
graduated
field.
from undergrad, just so
Oh,
you know.
cool. I graduated like
Yeah.
2007 from undergrad, and then high school in 2002. So I am grandma. Um, so
Where were you in
yeah.
9/11?
Oh my God, I was in my AP social studies course and we watched everything go down and it was traumatic.
East Coast, West Coast?
Well, I'm in the Midwest.
Okay,
So
Midwest. Okay.
yeah, I grew up in like the southwestern part of Missouri
Hmm.
and now I just kind of moved a little bit north. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it was, I was catching It's just the political climate there was so
No, no,
interesting and always
no.
has been. Always has
I
been.
get it. I was third grade, second grade, in like one of those like portables, and my
Hmm.
mom and dad had to decide whether or not to send. I'm West Coast, so it
Yeah,
had happened, and then my parents are deciding, are they going to send me to school? And
right.
like in their minds, they're like, if we don't send them to school, then like they win. So they
Yeah,
sent me to
yeah.
school, and it was like one of my earliest like flashball memories, as they call it.
Wow.
Sorry, crazy tangent.
That's no, it's totally valid. I mean, I definitely had a lot more memories before, but that day I remember just very clearly. Very,
Yeah,
very clearly. It
yeah.
was just so somber. We were all so confused as to what was happening. We weren't sure if we were going to be sent home. Like, I had a stick phone, like those old Nokia phones that you could put
Mm-hmm.
like all the different
Mm-hmm.
face plates on. This is like the symbol
Mm-hmm.
for it. Um, and I remember because I had to have my phone off because we weren't allowed to have phones in school, but my mom made me take a phone in case this was like
Yeah.
around Columbine too. And so my mom's like, you
Oh.
will have a cell phone on you
Mm-hmm.
in high school. You are driving, you need a cell phone. And so I was privileged in that regard. But yeah, I remember turning on my phone to basically tell my mom I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a weird day. But yeah, like I was a senior in high school when that happened, and I was in advanced government social studies, and it's so weird how those things just kind of stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, ever since then, I kind of wandered into the field, and I haven't really left. So since 2014, but I think I started around like 2011, 2010, 2011. And that was when I started like as a technician. We called it a behavior therapist then. So like it
Yeah.
wasn't even a technician, it was behavior therapist because we were
Shout
still
out to Ogden.
pulling from psychology. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I've been teaching now for like 5 years in the ABA space, and doctorate in 2019 was when I got all
Congratulations,
that
by the way.
finished. Well, yeah, for 6 years now. So
Well, I
thank
mean,
you.
it's never. I feel like it's never too late to tell someone
No,
congratulations on what you did.
no, never. But yeah, I've taken the approach of like, don't call me Dr. Arnold, call me Dr. Robin because I don't know, it makes me hipper or something. I don't know. Like I'd rather you call me by my first name, but also I'm a woman that has a doctorate, so I should
Hmm.
probably like get the shout out. It's funny because I never seem to have to correct female students on this. Like they usually
Mm,
always address me as doctor. And usually it's like my very few male students who come through that call me Robin or professor.
yeah.
And I find that so interesting. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe I'm looking too much into that, but
No, no,
I digress.
you're. I think you're spot on. I mean, I literally was a student working at Penn State. You could imagine the demographic there.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and many of the women that were professors that had PhDs had to deal with what you're talking about, and they felt slighted. But these are also women culturally, I think, who call their mother by their first name, which is not something culturally for
Yeah.
me
I
that
don't
would
do
be
that.
okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's different things. So I mean, I feel like there needs to be more respect in like, hey, this is what I prefer to be called. This is how I
Right.
would like to be addressed. And like, or even in this situation, because like, don't call me Dr. Van if you catch me out at Safeway. But
Yeah.
if we're in class
Yeah.
and you're asking a question, then the environment makes sense to call me Dr. Van.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
just, I don't know. And normally, if I like do say something, I'm really casual about it, but I do provide like an explanation as to why. And I feel that that really helps versus me just being like, no, call me doctor. What I'll say is, you know, I realize this was probably unintentional, but I worked really hard for my doctorate. I'm a woman with a doctorate. I feel that I need to help shatter that glass ceiling. So I would love it if you would call me doctor. You can call me Dr. Robin. You can call me Dr. Arnold. I don't care. Um, but I would like to know that you're doing the same for all the others as well.
I love that. I think you did that magnificently. I need to figure out how to. how to
It's a
work
learning
that.
opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And you know what? The way that I received that just now was like, hey, my pronouns are this.
Yeah.
You know what I
Same
mean? It's
thing.
that simple.
Well, yeah,
I don't
that's
like
true.
Timothy. Just call me Tim. Like
Right.
very simple.
Yeah. And it's like if you can respect someone's pronouns, you can absolutely respect their title, but you can also
Hmm.
respect person first versus identity first. That's something we talk about a lot with like the autism community.
I do
And
the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's like as soon as I use that example for students, it's like, oh, it clicks. But the fact that we had to break that down shows how far society is behind all of that in the first
Yeah.
place. So it's kind of sad, but we'll get there.
I also think that when it comes to person first, identity first, there's a thing that was taught. I don't know, it was before my time, but it was like you always say their name and then like their identity. But some people now prefer to have their identity first. And
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough to some of the more seasoned individuals that
Mhm.
that matters. Like
Yeah.
they feel like this is their identity and this is how they want to be called, so do that. Because there was like this whole push to like person first, and it's like some people prefer this way. And then if you ever like go up to like a mom or a dad or like just a parent, and they're like struggling with what they want to call their child versus what their child wants to be called, which is an interesting like
Oh my gosh.
dichotomy.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people have really like approached. And it's like I'm not here to fix this dichotomy. I'm here to make sure that everybody is being communicated with in an appropriate way that they want to be communicated with.
Right.
Because sometimes the mom wants person first, but the learner wants identity first, and that's a very interesting thing to navigate.
Oh my gosh, yes. And like I've had those conversations with families. I've had those conversations with students. I've had those conversations with other autistic people. And it's so interesting because the point that I always go back to, I prefer identity first because
Mhm.
literally the entire framework, like the glasses that I wear every single day, is through the lens of autism. And like that describes my experience. And so like that makes sense to me. But
Mhm.
if you say, my friend Robin who has autism, to me that sounds really freaking awkward. Because if you have to be reminded that I'm a human and that I'm Robin, and like that's something you have to do for yourself, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. I'm accepting who I
Mhm.
am. And so like I think there's just this empowerment in the community, in particular with autism, but overall disability as well, where we're starting to take some of that power. And it's like, no, we are people, but like, why do you have to be reminded we're people? That's kind of messed up. Like,
Yeah.
literally,
N-
this is our life.
I
So,
wholeheartedly agree, and
yeah,
I feel like sometimes I need better language to speak to others who just haven't had that class. 'Cause I
yeah,
have that class all the time, and I
yeah,
make sure I like instill it into my students who are typically people that are going to be going out into the field, who are either going to be special educators or they're going to be BCBAs. You need to
working with
know these
autistic
things.
populations. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So thank you for saying the part that I just assumed people know that needs to be said. But
It,
no, yeah,
it's it goes back to the whole thing. Like I feel that some of these conversations should be common knowledge, but they're really not. And
no.
I'm always humbled by that. Every time I even make a social media post with our Nuraba organization, it's like, man, there are still people who don't know these things.
Hmm.
Like we still get asked to speak at conferences and on this topic, and it's just like, but we still, I could tell you all sorts of random experiences I've had with very prominent, let's be honest, old white men in our field who are in leadership positions who have tried to say things that I've had to tell them, hey, do you want to lose your following? Because that's how you're going to lose your
Hmm.
following, is if you say that, or if you phrase it this way, or whatever. And I'm not going to call those out because it's she said versus he said, but
Yeah.
it
One
happens.
thing I do want to call out though is I think that you probably experienced this a lot because I've experienced this too. You probably said something totally innocuous in a presentation, and somebody went up to you thanking you so much for saying it. Like just that person first, identity first thing, like
Yeah,
that's just like duh to me and to you. But like to somebody else that like has been having this battle for years and having somebody like us communicating that, it's a little different. So sometimes I have people come up to me and just be like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for saying this." I'm like, y'all ain't saying that. Like my first
yeah,
reaction is that's not being said. But like I say of course
right,
you're welcome.
right.
Oh,
The
thank you
mask
for
is there.
coming.
Yeah,
Exactly. But like in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, like I need to speak this louder to me. You
yeah.
know?
That's what I hear too. It's like, well, somebody's not communicating. So that's where we started our organization. That's where we started social media presence. That's where, and so like that's the thing is I just kind of have to remind myself I'm doing things. I do see systemic change. Once in a while we'll see something that's kind of like, ooh, that's out of touch, like, that the
Mhm.
BACB will roll out or whatever. And it's just like, oh, did you read the room? Because you didn't read the room. And they're not on my good list right now in particular.
Sometimes I
But
have to like listen or read
yikes.
twice because I'm like, did I hear or read what I just thought I read? Like,
Yeah,
am I wrong? Because I've been taught like everything that's in the Cooper book is right. Everything that they
oh
say
my
is right.
gosh.
But
Cooper is written from a
then
privileged white lens, 100%.
exactly. So once you get to a certain level, we question what we know so that we can better have validity and reliability.
Yeah.
Some people, when you start to question those things, they're like, "What are you doing?" It's
Yeah. And it's not just about that, it's overall questioning the field itself. And like, I've been a naysayer for a while, and I remember being a behavior therapist and being told, like, for instance, like if I worked with a certain learner who engaged in pica type behavior, I remember having squirt bottles, one of having hot sauce in it, one of having, I know I had to do this because I was told this
you
is the
had two.
plan. I had a
Oh my
hot sauce, and then that was for pica, but then every so many minutes, if he didn't do any sort of like pica type behavior, I had a soda in the other one, and you would just spray it
Oh,
into
for
his
the
mouth.
reinforcement.
Yeah.
Real quick for our listeners who might not know, pica is
Oh, yeah. So ingesting inedible items. So,
yeah,
but in this kid's defense, the most intense pica I saw was basically like mouthing things. But
yeah.
anytime he were to put something like to past the plane of the lips,
Hmm.
um, that wasn't food, we were to take the hot sauce combo and spray it right into his mouth, and he was clearly not loving that, which duh.
So one thing that you're pointing out that that keen listeners will know is that when it comes to these diagnoses, we have to really investigate. When it comes to me, I'm not as interested in the diagnosis as I am in the frequency and level of the behavior. Because
Yeah,
that's what I'm working with and working on. Because they could be diagnosed with pica, but are they really eating inedible
right.
items, or are they just bringing inedible items to their mouth? And then, in a preparation to prevent that, somebody gave them the diagnosis of pica so that every time they did that, someone stopped them and they're like, oh, yeah, what we're doing is working because we're stopping them from eating. So, I mean, it's this whole thing you
Yeah,
really have to think about that, like, it might go over your head if oh, they're diagnosed with pica, boom, boom, they're diagnosed with this, that. Okay, well, great, and let me talk to them first.
yeah,
Let me understand their lived experience, but also let's measure the level of the behavior we're interested in changing.
yeah. That's there's a lot of stigmatization, especially with autism. And I don't know if that's because of the history of the field and that's where the bread and butter has been, or if it's
Or
just,
insurance,
or insurance, exactly, like the sources of payment and power, or that could be a
payment
whole
and
other
power.
conversation.
That's a whole presentation. The sources of,
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
write that down. Sources of payment and power, especially related to
Yes.
autism.
We need
That's
to
a
talk
great
about
one.
that. That's like an hour there. Yeah, stigmatizing specific behaviors for autism, but then having a double standard with people who are not autistic is a whole other thing that we see throughout research and in practice as well. But yeah, this one kid was doing nothing out of the ordinary that I feel any kid, he was maybe like 5 at the time. I was like, any 5-year-old,
Mhm.
like I would mouth objects. Like I just like
That
I'm an
looks
adult.
good.
I mouth objects, like I have a chewing necklace that I will occasionally, stem with. And like
Mhm,
to me, it's so normal that I'm like, I'm punishing this kid. Now I was following the BCBA, so I was doing my job, but
mhm.
like that stuff still happens, I guess. And like
And it's that
understandably,
nuance.
yeah, understandably, like people are upset about it.
Yeah.
And the
No,
people who are aging now are starting to talk about it. And so that's where we're getting that resistance,
mhm,
rightfully so.
exactly. I mean, there's a lot of rightful resistance to ABA.
Yeah,
At the same time, there's a lot of people who champion ABA because of what it's done for them, their family,
right.
whatever. I don't think that those people are nearly as loud, and I don't think that they need to be as loud. They don't even need to say anything. They just need to, live their lives. But I'm really interested in communicating the way that our science works,
Yeah.
because when people say, oh, you're doing ABA, you're basically doing conversion therapy. I i think, like, I don't think that you quite understand what I do or what the science is. I totally understand what you're against, and I'm against it too. So I don't know how to communicate that with them, especially within 140 characters.
Oh, no, definitely. And social media is hard because context is removed from a lot of conversations you have on social media spaces. Um, One thing that is really important for people who have experienced trauma is validation. And
Mm,
so when we are engaging in a neuraba space, for instance, I'm never going to tell somebody that their perspective is wrong, ever, because it's not. It's their perspective. It's what they've experienced.
mhm.
It's their reinforcement and punishment contingencies at play. And um, the learner's always right. That's what Skinner
Yes.
said. And so, like, I'm not going to say, you know what? No, it's not, because there are harmful things happening right now. I know there are practitioners who are supervising students I work with and teach actively, working on research projects or teaching in courses, who encourage these procedures that I know are not okay any longer. They never were okay, but like, I was having to do them years and years and years ago and learned then I felt icky. But now I know
Hmm.
why and I can explain it and advocate for it. But then I didn't have that voice. So it's just not invalidating those experiences, but also saying, you know what, let me give you a chance to show you how I'm doing things different. Let me give you a chance to show you that there can be a better way to do this. And that's hard because that takes time, that takes a lot of dedication and following. And if people don't want to see that and they don't want to give the opportunity, they'll see themselves out. But if
Yeah.
people do really care about, like, hey, it's not going anywhere, this is everywhere. This is what is recommended. Who knows what's going to be recommended for autism now with the current administration? But like,
Oof.
I
Boo.
I digress. But
Sorry, I had to
I
boo them.
I know it's so bad. Well, you've got all these harmful narratives going around about us as a population, in addition to, like, what's going on, what actually helps,
Hmm.
who knows? And so, like, you've got confused parents, you've got confused caregivers, you've got all these individuals who feel less than now because of what everyone's saying openly about us and our population to our faces. Um, yeah, validation is so important right now more than ever. And so, letting people have that space, if that's what you've heard and you haven't experienced it personally, stick around, let
Yeah.
me kind of show you how it can be
Hmm.
done. Let me show you how we can make things better. It doesn't take away the pain and the trauma and the suffering that has happened in the past. Conversion therapy is absolutely a thing ABA has done, and our field continues to not punish and remove literature that advocates for that. So I want to be very clear here. Like,
Hmm.
when the powers that be at our most prestigious journals do not
Hmm.
retract articles that explicitly talk about conversion therapy and why we should do it, that's a problem. That's a systemic issue. So
I agree, and
practitioners
I
can do
think
it
that
different.
I agree, and I think that it's not just a retraction because retraction just removes it and it
Yeah,
makes it seem like, oh, it's just a blip. Why did it go away? Like, there's a lot of questions. Why did it go away? Why did we
right.
feel like it needed to go away? There needs to be another comment or issue. We have a lot of ways we can do publications. We have comments on publications. We have
Hmm.
extensions. We have all these things. There
Yeah.
should be a reply to that form of applied behavior analysis that says we vehemently oppose positive punishment as a method for behavior change. And that explicit message has not been made. We have changed. Oh, I'm not part of them. So they have changed from behavior modification to behavior analysis to behavior change, all these things.
Hmm.
I think there needs to be a clear, explicit message that, this is what we do. This is what we have done in the past. This is what we don't do anymore. This is why we don't do it anymore. Like, there needs to be those
Right.
clear delineations, in my perspective, because
Yeah.
unless that is confronted and communicated, then the harm done can never be addressed adequately.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes sometimes, since like you and I have talked about not getting through and still finding that there are people unaware of some of these things, like clearly it has to be approached at the systemic level. So
Hmm.
the fact that we don't get that is kind of concerning. And
Yeah.
the few times that we have kind of had a glimmer of hope on some of that, they've been retracted and they've been
Hmm.
withdrawn. And it's just like, in case in point, like the cultural components in our ethics code. And oh, this is what's going to change on the task list, and this is what's going to be great. Oh, just kidding. We're going to actually pull that
Hmm.
away. Like, what kind of a sick joke is that? So,
Yeah.
I don't mean to get all like scorched earth on everything here, but like
No, you're
it's
right.
really hard when the leadership isn't taking a stance in favor of people.
Agreed. Agreed. I think
Yeah.
that's a great place to leave it for this week.
Honestly, it might be. That is a good call. If I can
Call to
figure out
action.
how to stop it